is be true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web.
All right, welcome back at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. You want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. Again, you're listening to at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, and Dr. Bradley. Yes, the doctor is in the house. Dr. Bradley is here along with us with our engineer and director, Pastor Hobbs here. Like I said, make sure you get him on camera. Folks, I said this is what you want to aspire to look like when you get at 8 o'clock in the morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, his brother, like I said, cleaner than the board of hell. So, like I said, we were waiting for our guest to call in, but while we're waiting, Jamal had brought up an interesting topic. The politics. What's going on here in the city? Our U.S. attorney, the first woman of color, has had to resign over some controversy. Rachel Rollins, now that has ensnared our city councilor for District 5, Ricardo Arroyo, is being named in this. That there were some shenanigans that may have been taking place behind the scenes as it relates to the recent election for the district attorney for Suffolk County, in which Kevin Hayden was the winner of that. But you have to be honest, if these emails and text messages are true, it's very troubling that this was taking place to sway folks in one way or the other and choosing the next Suffolk County District Attorney, and not a fair process. So it has resulted in the current U.S. Attorney, Rachel Rollins, having to step down from her position. Like I said, I don't have all the facts, but what is out there, I'm not sure, Dr. Bradley, if you've been paying attention to this. I know you've been busy with this whole scuttlebutt of the recent issue with the U.S. Attorney, Rachel Rollins, having to resign, and that there may have been some things going on inappropriately when it came to the recent election for Suffolk County District Attorney Kevin Hayden, who is now the DA. And now it appears that City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo was also caught up in that.
Okay. I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm just getting myself organized here.
Wipe your face.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Man, you guys are brutal, man. You guys are brutal. But that's okay. I mean, she got some
hungry.
Yeah, she got some good. Well, I didn't have breakfast this morning, man. You know what I mean? But she got some some goodies out there.
Oh, yeah.
But listen, dog, I'm frustrated. Yeah. Because I see the same ball game every time we have a strong person of color in position to make some changes. Yeah. I see the same assassination of character. Yeah. I see the same assassination of reputation. Yeah. Man, we got Donald Trump walking around here free. Yeah. After what he did.
But this appears to be self-inflicted.
Well, I got it. I understand.
And the standard, I agree. But where you're going with it, but you're saying is that the standard should be the same.
It should be the same,
right?
I understand. That every time there's changes. Every time we as people of color stepping up and saying we're going to make changes, and I know she rubs some folks the wrong way, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the process to get rid of her. Yeah. You're doing this. You're putting her under the microscope, but this guy's blatant. Outright insurrection, blatant with his disapproval, blatant with his anger, blatant with his disrespect for our system. He's still walking around here running for president, and you're gonna go after a person like that?
I don't.
Come on, man.
No, Dr. Brown.
I am pissed.
I don't.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't disagree with anything you say, but we also have a rule of law. We also have a code of ethics, right? That we live by, right?
Right.
And so, just because someone else and folks are going to be okay with that, we should not, because then we become hypocritical if we say that that
Got it.
that we, because he's doing it, we should do it. No, we're setting a higher standard.
But the rules of law, the code of ethics, should apply to the highest office in the land.
Yes.
If the highest office in the land, the individual who occupies the highest office in the land is encouraging, violence and insurrection and stopping our democratic process.
Well, the good thing is, Dr. Bradley, it seems like at least there's some accountability coming to even that individual these days. And so that's a good thing. But we have to continue to carry. So, I mean, because in this instance, from all appearances, from what I've seen, this could have and should have been avoided, right? With that, this person, just like he did, Donald Trump, knew the rules and he violated. If you violate the rules, everyone should be held to the same standard. So that I agree with you there 100%. But I can't. I would be a hypocrite if I said, well, she should get away with it because. His reckoning, I think, is coming. Let's bring this caller.
My personal opinion is that if it doesn't, they need to close the system down. It's hypocritical.
No,
in my opinion,
I totally agree.
Complete hypocrisy.
You will see people will no longer obey the law because, like I said, realistically, we don't have enough law enforcement to go out and enforce the law. Most of it is because people are law-abiding citizens and obey the law, right?
Exactly.
And so, I mean, if that was the case, like I said, traffic lights are just there for those who will understand and stop at it, and we still have those who go through it, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
But if I'm saying is that if we didn't have that 99% of the people who respect the rule of law, we would have traffic accidents everywhere. It would be total chaos, total gridlock. So that's what I'm saying. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table. You wanted to weigh in. We go. I think Pastor Hobbs has him on hold still. Okay, so this, from what I have read so far and been able to extract from this, that she was advised by her staff that this was not something that was doable. And matter of fact, they said that there had been no one previous who had violated this Hatch Act. So clearly, and I think.
Well, don't get me wrong, Larry. I'm not upset over the fact that they caught her.
Right.
I'm not upset over the fact that they actually investigated her.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the system. That's how it works.
Yeah.
What I'm upset over is that someone else did it, and he's not been held accountable.
Well, he is.
But she does it, and now all of a sudden they come down on her.
Right.
And that is not what is good for Rachel is good for Donald.
No question.
That's what I.
We are in
that's
total agreement on that, and I think most people are. It's just when you have such a high profile.
Yeah.
And the world is watching everything that you do. Well, that's it, but certain people, they look. Her confirmation was one of the closest, right? The Vice President Harris had to come in and cast the tie vote, right? Yeah. So the fact that she had to do that says that these folks didn't want you there. They were already trying to find any little impropriety on your part.
Gotcha.
That
get you out.
So they get you out.
Yeah.
And you gave them the ammunition so that you could not be effective in your agenda.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm saying is like, you knew if you did anything, even if you didn't, they didn't want you there.
Well, well I mean, she knew.
We bring a call in? Oh.
I would argue that she knew based on who she is and what she was doing in her agenda that people were going to attack her, and they were watching her.
Well, I think she didn't transition from a public official, which she had every right because she was elected, she could endorse. She could speak because she only was accountable to the public, her voters. Once you're at a appointed position, the rules change, and I think she didn't change with those rules.
I got you.
When you're used to doing things a certain way, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. The caller on there? Caller, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning. What you wanted to say?
I just said that it's sad that Rachel Warren and Western Nation took a big hit for the black community, because I know that as the Attorney General, she did a good job in helping to at least justify or reinvent the criminal justice system. And then for her to do what she did, especially on the political side, trying to get District City Councilor Frida Woro to replace her, is just wrong, huh?
No, you can have your personal, like it said, but when when you're giving the rules and what you can and cannot do, and you agree to those, then when you're held accountable to those. And like as Dr. Bradley has a very valid point, very good point, is that it looks like finally Donald Trump is going to be held accountable for his. He had some protection when he was in office, but you see now that he doesn't have the protection of the presidency, things are starting to move. Probably not as fast as most people would have liked him to, but at least finally, I think there's a glimmer that, you know what, he will be held accountable. And that's why I say I don't want to be a hypocrite in this and say, oh, let's just gloss over what Rachel Rollins did and we're going to unload on what Donald Trump. Accountability is across the board, you know, with me. So.
Well.
Okay, yeah, good.
You got some comments?
Yes, so Patrick Wilson, who's been tuned in fact, there's been quite a bit of comments. I apologize throughout the broadcast with regard to real estate. So folks are hungry that continue to have that education and conversation.
Well, come on in and do the and attend the course.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Come on in and attend a home buyers course. Because I think that's the best way to do it.
Yes. So Patrick Wilson, he is tuned in and he's saying, not saying she's perfect, but wow, exactly. Look what they still do to Diane Wilkerson, what they did to Chuck Turner till the day he died. Shaking my head, stick your head up too far and you're a target.
You're done. You know, if you're challenging the system, that's where my anger, that's where my frustration, I shouldn't say anger, I should say frustration.
Yeah.
If you're stepping forward, you know, and challenging the system, you're going to be assassinated one way, shape, or another. Yeah. You know, and they have done that all throughout history. Absolutely. When we tried to actually build our own self-sufficient community, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and other communities, what did they do? They burned it or bombed it down, bombed it. You know, just that simple. You know, so whenever we try to make a change, you know, you're beaten down, and yet on the other side you have this guy who is actually the orange man, who's actually running for presidency again. He should never even be allowed to campaign, in my opinion. You know, the Constitution was very clear. He should never be allowed to do it, but yet they're turning their backs to it and saying, well, you know what, he's not, you know, they're coming up with excuses. And we know if he were black, we know if Obama did that, he would be under the jailhouse. He would not have been in it. He would be beneath it.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, you know, my frustration is with the blatant, you know, unfairness associated with the system.
Absolutely.
That's my
frustration. Also
frustration.
goes on to say she's a human being, as is Monica Cannon Grant. Not that they are the same. And it's so true. When you're a person who's advocating to really change systems, you are a target. And I feel like, you know, as the community of color, we need to not be so quick to abandon people either.
No, right. No, you're right. And this is not my. No. I know. I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying this, but I'm saying we also have an obligation to not be hypocritical and say we're not going to talk about it because it's somebody that we respect, somebody that we support. Yeah. Because then we look like them.
There's someone who came here and sat here and talked to us,
and someone who I supported when she was when
so do I, and I still support her.
Right, exactly.
With you, I still support her.
Right, but just like anything else, when someone has done something wrong, we also have to point it out because again, then we lose credibility.
We have to point it out, but the system, you know, the system got to be fair in the process as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you're going to actually sneak behind the buildings and throw on the microscope and do all these things to catch her. You know what I mean? And she stepped in it.
Right.
Oh, she's human. But yet you let this guy who was blatantly disrespectful to our systems, our institution, our democracy, still walking and running for a presidency.
Right, and still destroying. But that says something about where this country is, that many people would support someone like
Christian,
that.
I'm sorry.
No, I know. Right, what you're saying, well, her behavior was an immediate disqualifier for her, and it took forever to get to him. No, I clearly well taken. Let's bring this other caller into a standby. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Peace. Good morning again. It's Jamal again.
Good morning.
Yeah, so this whole thing, I think, there's a lot of levels to this. And one we have to be careful of is like, you know, there's the philosophy of like do for self, right?
But then we also let's unpack what you just said. Do for self. What do you mean in this instance? What do you mean by that?
So that's you know the revolutionary term do for self in terms of self-determination.
Yeah.
So we want people to take their own initiative, create their own lane, You know what I mean? We want to be able to have a reasonable mastery of the domain around us, those type of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you take the position of do for self, you also have to understand you did it to yourself.
I like that.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, right now, you know, I cut my finger.
Mm-hmm.
I cut my finger because I was messing with a kitchen knife.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not been messing with the kitchen knife, I would not have cut my finger.
Right.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
So with this thing here, it's like when I was running for office, there were a lot of temptations. You know, I wasn't, on the national scene or anything, but a lot of temptations to do the wrong thing or whatever. Old friends, hey man, come with me, go do this. Man, no.
Mm-hmm.
No. And if I was in those big times, like let's say like the Marion Barry, the old saying is you can't catch me in the hotel room with cocaine and a hooker because I'm not going to go.
Right.
So at some point, these are self-inflicted wounds.
And that's
and it's not just that everybody is out to get her,
right.
Which were people out to get her? Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But they wouldn't have been able to get her if she didn't go into the hotel room with the cocaine and hooker.
Got it. No, and that's my point. And I understand Dr. Bradley's frustration about the process and how the double standard and how other people, they can do an abundance of things and they're never held accountable. And we do one thing and we get held accountable. But like I said, we can't be hypocrites here and saying, well, we're just going to act like we don't see this over here, but we see that over there.
I got
it.
In the sense of hypocrisy.
Well, there's also a level of betrayal with that because, okay, so for instance, anybody who voted for Trump, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
You're with that. You condone that.
Yeah.
Okay. Some folks, like Rachel, a lot of people feel that she kind of did the old switcheroony. Okay, she came in as a champion of the people, and then when she got in, kind of turned her back, or at least a blind, deaf ear to many of the people, and began with a certain level of arrogance and gravitas, and what have all the people in the paper been calling it? Hubris. That came, and then she changed. She changed. It wasn't the same Rachel, and I think the result of that change, it's all in the Bible. The lust for power and all this stuff that was corrupted.
I think I'm gonna push back a little bit on this one, Jamal, because I would argue that most people who supported DT didn't think they were going to get January 6th. I would argue that most people that supported DT didn't think that they were going to get such a blatant disrespect for our institutions.
Yeah.
I understand that they understood the stupidity. I agree with you on that. I understand that they understood that he was different than his predecessors.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that he was going to outright just disrespect the democratic process around transferring of power. I predicted it, but I don't think a lot of people saw that.
You're right. I think here's the sad parliamentary to that, right, is that to what you're saying is that there, fortunately, enough of those people don't think that way and are not going to vote for him again. The sad part is there were tens of millions of people who, with everything they know about all of that,
will still do it.
That he is the lead contender. It's not a disqualifier. Like Rachel will never probably get an opportunity to hold public office again, right? Yeah. If she even thinks about it, right? Where this guy, so I get that's what you're talking about is the double standard.
That's the standard.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. But to Jamal's point, he said, and I think if I'm the President Biden and Vice President Harris, and saying we went all out,
I would be disappointed.
Right.
There's no question about that.
This was a hard fight.
Yeah.
We could have picked something that would have been a lot easier to get confirmed. Yeah. We had to go to the mat to get you there.
And we got you, and just what you did.
And you also, in some ways, confirmed all of what the other side, you gave them all these talking points to use against you as well as the administration.
Got it.
So
also, too, their willingness to completely destroy another innocent human being. It's like those terrorists who just don't care about, the crowd, the collateral damage or whatever. So, I mean, Kevin Hayden just had the unfortunate situation of just being in the way of their goal. And they were completely willing to destroy this family man, this Christian guy, by all points. I mean, what is he, a party animal? This guy is about as straight-laced as they come. and they were completely willing to destroy his reputation, his family, everything. That's a whole nother level. Yeah. And meanwhile, while talking about Black Lives Matter, you know, of course, except for those black lives that get in the way of my political ascension.
Mm-hmm. No, so Dr. Brown, I want to get your take on what Jamal just said, because that, I think, doesn't get his... And I thought he actually showed a lot of class in his response. He didn't go after the jugular. He didn't really... He just said, you know, it speaks for itself. But he's right, because from what I've read, and I don't know how much you've seen, it looks like something was going to be fabricated, almost like a Trump move to... If it was true, you put it out there.
Yeah. And I don't. That's not my hit.
No. I'm not saying. I want to get your take on that path that what Jamal was saying.
I think Jamal's right on target as usual. I think he's on target. And there's an innocent individual out there that was being attacked, unfairly, and we should hold her accountable. My hit is the double standard. Yeah, that's where my frustration lies. And in fact, what she did, she got caught. She will be held accountable. Right. What Donald Trump did, he got caught and he's not been held accountable. Yeah. And we do not have that level of frustration. You know what I mean? That scrutiny on him. Right. That's where I'm concerned.
I think there is, and I think from every indication, his days of reckoning are coming. Matter of fact, they're coming for a lot of them. You look at Fox News and their lies, right? Almost to the tune of $1 billion, right? And then recently, the judgment in the civil case against him, right, where he was found liable for his behavior, right? And then I think this Georgia case is going to be out open, as well as the documents.
Those you're right. The Georgia case, the New York case, those are state cases. All right,
the federal one.
Well, hold up. Okay. So, and I ask people not to put those cases. Don't conflate them or put them into one bucket, because where our Constitution operates, he can run at the federal level, correct, and still be prosecuted or pursued at the state level. Right. All right. So but I'm talking about the federal level is just letting him walk away from this. Right.
Well, that's the case with Smith, the one that they're here for the documents. I don't think he's going to, from what I'm seeing, and I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. He's not going to be. But here's the thing. If he walks away and he gets elected, that says more about this country than it does about Donald Trump.
Yes, it does.
And that was my original point in terms of people knew what they were getting. Right. Yes, the January 6th might have been unpredictable, right? But I mean, he got elected already with the grab him by the P thing. He had already made fun of the disabled journalist,
right? And John McCain, he said he hated people who got caught for fighting for this country. He doesn't like people that get captured, mocking, saying that all the Mexicans were rapists and all of this.
So I agree with that. I agree with all that. But my point is, he is walking. He is running.
And that's frustrating. I think to all of us who have an understanding and a respect for law, right? Because we've conducted ourselves in that way, right? But I think what's going to be entertaining is watching them eat themselves, right? With him and DeSantis. Once DeSantis officially gets into this, like I said, DeSantis has become goofy fighting with Mickey Mouse, right? And now you're going to see almost like The Apprentice, where Donald Trump is going to be firing each of them individually, and all is going to be left is him. Because by the time they consume each other, I went to BJ's and got the biggest bag of popcorn I get for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be entertaining watching him and DeSantis. DeSantis is someone like watching dry paint, and he thinks that everyone wants to live in Florida. That around this country, that you can't see that even folks in some of these states that are conservative, they're not reading the tea leaves. That they're losing these elections because it's not about Republican or Democrat. It is about autocratic, and people understand
democracy.
That's right.
Autocracy and democracy.
Dictators.
Yeah.
You
Autocracy
do not fare well under a dictator.
Yeah. People are smart enough to understand that it's a problem. I'm sorry, Pastor.
No. Just Patrick Wilson. He's wanted to chime in. He says 100% Jamal. We have to hold people accountable for their deeds.
It sounds like there's a but.
But in a court of law, not in the court of the Herald.
Well, see, this is not a situation where what is being discussed for the most part is not something that she could be held accountable in a criminal aspect, or if you're talking about Rachel Rollins. she also could be in jeopardy of losing her law license because of the ethics here. So this may not be a criminal, but the implications
lose a bar card.
Exactly, that she may deal with on that aspect of it may be greater than any criminal exposure that she has put herself out there to. So
and not for nothing, if Kevin Hayden wasn't such a nice guy and he wanted to make a stink about it, he could sue the both of them.
Right, and Arroyo is an attorney as well. So
exactly,
well,
and despite his things trying to say, "Oh, well, I knew nothing about it," and the report, like he's trying to make it like the report just indemnifies him. It's like, no, it calls you into suspicion.
Exactly.
Because you were fishing. Hey, is there going to be an investigation on him? Because that would be my best week ever.
Right.
Well, I think Jamal made a point that most people, I know I didn't even think about because I was so focusing on the disparity between Trump and her, and that is the innocence of Hayden and his family. I think that's the piece that most people are not hitting.
And I apologize for interrupting you, but also the innocence of the process, right? Of the people who might have been swayed by something that wasn't true, right?
Yeah.
Because if you tell me that this person is under investigation, that could sway whether or not I'm going to vote.
It would sway me. Especially for a position like that.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Come on, you're talking about one of the key positions in Chief
Law Enforcement
County. Exactly. So actually, it would. So that I have to stop back and say, well, yeah, I think she should be held accountable for what she's doing. But my head is not her. My head is the system.
We're all frustrated with that.
But
this is why when we're talking about not putting, like Jamal said, the hotel analysis, don't put yourself in the hotel room, right? Because they can't get dirt on you if you're not standing there with a bucket of dirt.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
And I agree. I think we all are in agreement that the process in the system is not fair. That's why when you achieve these, you have a bigger target. Like I knew during my time as president of MAMLEO, just like you, right? I wasn't just representing myself. I was representing an organization that folks have a dislike, a disdain for, right? So my behavior, even if it was personal, was going to come in question that it was somehow tied to the association that I represented, that I was elected to lead. This is no different here. And you have two people who are attorneys. Both of them stripping down their titles as city councilor and U.S. attorney and former district attorney. These are lawyers. These are people who know better than the average person does. This isn't somebody on the corner can't figure out what the laws are, what the rules are. And it seems like in all indications, she was warned ahead of time in some of these. Even the problem with her going to the fundraiser for Jill Biden, that was not as big issue because from seeing some who you listen to, she got permission to be there. That wasn't as big. If that was the only thing on the table, I think she would be fine. She might have got a little sanction or something. But this whole thing of sounding looking like there was going to be some fabrication to keep a fair process from going out, that is not much different than what Trump and them were trying to do and alter an election.
I mean, that is my frustration, though. It's not much different, but yet the behavior is different. The scrutiny is different.
How it's treated.
Yeah, how it's treated is different.
No
I got it. I got it.
Yep.
But my piece is that, a part of her bar requirement, ethics.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's the other part of it.
Right.
So you have these three attorneys,
right,
involved, Hayden, Aurora, and her.
Right.
And, it can really turn out to be very bad for two of them.
And not giving any credence to it or anything like that. But here's the difference, too, with Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is you expect that type of behavior from him because he has no standards. But Rachel, this is surprising that this was going on because she has something to lose at a magnitude.
But my frustration is I would expect a response from the system of the same way.
Well, good luck with that.
I know. That's my frustration.
And Larry, that's the thing. That's the thing this is what breaks people's spirits about the revolution or trying to do something good for the movement or whatever. Yes, we expect it from Donald Trump. We know he's a scumbag.
Right.
When people like this do it, Arroyo, Rachel, or whatever, these people have propped themselves up in our community as moral pillars.
Well,
they're going to tell us, they've spoken and said, you know what we need to do as a community? We need to do this and we need to do that. Meanwhile, they're over there doing this and that. And that is the problem, and it destroys people's faith in the system. This is why people don't trust politicians. This is why people don't trust the media.
Right.
This is it erodes the trust of the community, and this is why, for me at least, and as a guy who grew up doing a bunch of dirt, but when I try to do these things for the community or run for office or whatever, I try to do it as clean as possible,
right,
so that there are no questions. You want to remove that,
right? But this is why, to your point, and as well as Dr. Bradley's, is that when our folks ascend to these positions, which is rare, it's very difficult for the next person that looks less to get there, right? So this is very similar when Diane Wilkerson went through her issues, when Chuck Turner went through his. These were people that the community had a lot of respect for, were always championing and supportive of them. So when they fall, I guess it's a little bit more personal for those of us who supported them, and we know that it's going to be rare that someone of their talent is going to be in that position again.
Now watch this, important distinction there. Both Chuck and Diane, right, which were caught up in the same thing, for those who don't know, don't remember, or weren't paying attention, were both caught up in the same thing. The quote-unquote scheme that they got caught up in was trying to help a black businessman establish business. Okay? The scheme that these people just now got caught up in was a scheme involving trying to destroy a black man.
Yeah.
Big difference.
No, well, there's a lot of similarities, because you could have done it without the money part of it.
I'm talking about the motivation.
Right, the motivation. I get you.
The motivation on one was at least they were trying to help somebody, and yes, it got into the gray area, whatever, but they were trying to help somebody do business in Roxbury, where somebody else was trying to prevent somebody from doing business.
Yeah. No, it's so, Dr. Bradley, how do we, I guess, get other people to even say, because we already know that once you become a public figure, right, and it doesn't have to be at the level of a Rachel Rollins. Just like I said, just being the president of MAMLEO, I realized how you've been in that position, the scrutiny that it comes, just like Jamal, being an advocate as you have been, has given you scrutiny that you as a private citizen, you don't. How do we encourage other people who might not everybody's squeaky clean, right? We've got
I don't think there's anyone perfect. Right. I mean, if you dig deep enough, you're going to find something on anyone. I think Jamal put it on the table correctly. When you're in those positions, when you have ascended to that level, you got to be careful of what you do, who you're around, what you're saying at all times. You got to be cognizant of your position.
But sometimes we think that gives us immunity,
and that's where we fall flat on our face. You know what I mean? So I agree that when I was in Boston as a command staff member, I had to be very careful where I go, what I say, what I'm doing. If I'm out, and I don't go out drinking, if I'm going to drink some wine, it's at home. But I had to be very careful with that, because I knew that the slightest deviation, it was going to hit.
I'll give you a perfect example of it, Jamal. You probably would agree as well. When Dennis White was at a superintendent, but when he achieved a certain level, all the clause came out, right? All this information about his situation was well known by a lot of people, including those who put him there. But once he got there, that was too much for people to take, and they had to tear him down. So within 2 days, stuff that had been known for years
became a focal point,
because now he has too much power. Right.
Yeah. So, hold on, Larry. They didn't know that. They swore in court that they had no idea about it.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
All right.
Hint, nod.
Listen, I have a bridge on River Street that's out of commission. I want to sell it to you. Right? It's right there at River and High Park Ave. I'll give you a good deal on it.
Absolutely.
Pastor, you had something?
Yeah, Patrick Wilson is saying Trump's an easy focus. The problems that created him are in all of our communities. Those problems will still be there when he is gone.
They're still right. They're exactly like I tell people. Trump is a symptom of a problem in this country, right? Because if you look around the country, right, there are people who are trying to out Trump on the racism, like in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. I'm looking at the map. Mississippi. all of these things are attacking women's rights, LGBT. Like in Florida, they're saying that now, like you can't even march because that's in an LGBT community, because LGBT parade, because that is somehow pornographic. I mean, just the censorship and that's going on in these states, right?
Well, Larry, I do agree that Trump, the human, is separate than and less pernicious to our existence than Trumpism, the ideology. I agree with that. You know, because once Trump is gone, Trumpism is going to be here, and you see Trumpism in DeSantis and all, and Margaret Taylor Greene and all those folks. Well, so that's a bigger fight.
It is, because like you said, to your point there, right? Like Jim Jordan, the chair of this weaponization of government, right? He's doing exactly what the title says. He's not investigating it. He's promulgating it, right? And I was looking the other day with the 3 former FBI agents there. One who refused to go and execute a warrant with his team on one of these insurrectionists because he was talking about, what was it? The word I'm looking for is when someone doesn't want to sign up for the military. There, a conscientious objector.
Yeah.
You're an FBI agent. They're not asking you to go to war.
Yeah.
Right.
He should be fired.
He was. They were all fired. But these are the people they paraded, and then it all comes out.
Yeah.
Right. And then they won't even turn over the information to the Democrats, saying that this person has a right to not have them look at, because they know these people are not honorable people. But that's not what they're portraying to their people. Is that these people are victims because they're attacked because of their beliefs and conservative. The FBI, like I said, is probably the most conservative thinking group of people, you know. But these folks here are weaponizing the government, because you see Marjorie Taylor, when the black man approached her the other day, the congressman, I forget from what state he was from. Now she's filing this thing saying he was why? Because he's a big. You can read between the lines. It's just like with Giuliani, the mother and daughter down in Georgia. He said, "Oh, they were passing along cocaine and heroin." Right? That is buzzwords for your folks. See, these black they drug dealers.
Well, that's a dog whistle, though. I mean, that's a trumpet. You know what I mean?
You know how many people listen to that whistle?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when Mark, and I watched that interview, by the way, you know, and I watched that encounter. He was not aggressive. He was. It was more of a conversation like you and I are having. You know what I mean? And she came up, well, I'm afraid of him. That's all about that white supremacy jump.
But and also, what was he doing again? As you said, he was calling out because George Santos, who has been indicted and arrested, right? He's saying, how much is it going to take before you guys decide? But because it's all about power, you know, Jamal. Again, I ask you two brothers, where do we go from here? Because we're not going to most likely get someone to replace Rachel Rollins that looks like her, that may even have the same agenda that she did, and it's going to be difficult for them to put another person of color in there to get them confirmed in this short span of time. Where do we go from here? And then there's the city council. Several of them are asking for Arroyo to step down, but he's up for re-election. So his constituents have a choice to make here. So if they're saying that this is okay for our public officials to act in this manner and get reelected, then how do we say to those folks who want to reelect Donald Trump do you see what I'm saying here?
I got that.
No, I know you do. No, I'm not disputing that you get it. But you see what I'm saying? You see the situation that we put ourselves in, right?
You're right. But the public is making the decision. You know what I mean? Our institutions got to be fair with how it administers justice. That's where I'm going.
No question. Jamal, you want to weigh in on?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, as sad as it is, we're doomed. Because
it's going to be the answer, but
because we're not reproducing, and so for instance, if any of these city councilors or state reps or senators or whatever, or Rachel Rollins, they go, the question is, who do we got up to bat? Okay, and right now what we're finding is that our pool of viable candidates is steadily shrinking. Right? And then what's remaining is the people who are like, ooh, I'll do it.
Right.
I'll never forget one person one year, the DA's office was up, and the person told me, you know, I might run for DA.
Yeah,
and I was like,
talking about.
and I was like, okay. you know you have to be a lawyer, right? This person wasn't even a lawyer. You know, and so it's just we have a lot more work to do in terms of leadership and taking this stuff serious. There's a couple of candidates that are out now who are running for office that should not be.
No.
And we need to be vocal about that in terms of having real conversations with them, because they're not helping either.
No, the only thing they're running against is common sense.
Right.
It's the only thing they're running against. But like Dr. Bradley and I were talking about earlier, we're saying the same thing. It's not just in the elected field. It's in other organizations. I was saying at MAMLEO, it's like, we struggle now to try to find leadership to pass it on to. We're fortunate to have Dr. Lopes there, Jeffrey Lopes there. We were fortunate to have Eddie when I stepped down. But I told Jeff, you've got almost an impossible task, because I honestly, and this is not a disparaging of anyone that's current, I don't see anyone that's taken an active interest in the issues, right? You just can't go in there and then start trying to form it. You've got to go in there hitting the ground running. And like a lot of these folks now, I'm seeing some of these names, as Jamal alluded to, that are running for city council. But again, it goes back to our people, Dr. Bradley. Our schools are crazy messed up, right? Math and CAS has not improved. There are a lot of deficiencies here. Those should be what people are asking questions about, what we're doing and how and they don't show up.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. But this is all calculated. In my opinion, if you want, and I'm going right back to what we talked about earlier, gentrification. That's the way you move folks out. That's the way you get rid of individuals who have been owning homes for generations to finally sell because the education and the safety is in jeopardy. Once I can get them feeling uncomfortable in that area, it's easy for me now just to persuade them to sell, legacy property and move out into the suburbs and do other things, and I can take over this property. That, in my opinion, the school system in Boston is, in my opinion, is calculated. Is no reason why it can't be anything like, Latin or O'Brien. Those schools
should be the norm.
Those should be the norms.
Right. But to your point about the moving piece, Dr. Bradley, a lot of these folks are not selling. A lot of these folks were not owners, and that's why it's so easy to remove them, to move them out of these spots, right?
I hear you.
Because some of the ones at home, they're holding on. They understand what their properties are worth. Now, I'm not saying that that's not taking place, but the vast majority of the people are moving were renters. We're renters. We're renters.
But I had one of my family members mention Clarence Thomas and his wife. And this whole grand scheme of things of government officials being held accountable. What's happening with Clarence? Mr. Clarence. He does what he wants to do and say, "Well, I don't think I have to report it." You know what I mean? It's not a part of my ethics. We don't have an ethics standard in the Supreme Court.
Right.
I think our Supreme Court has been weaponized.
Absolutely.
I think it has been politicized.
Well, Donald Trump said that. I put people up on the court not because they were going to look at the law or stare decisis, things that have been decided. I put people on there because they said they were going to overturn it. So it didn't matter.
What they think, it was that political agenda. Issue. And I think they have bitten off more than they can chew, be honest with you. I think that's the reason why they didn't do well in the midterms, and I think that's the reason why they're not going to do well in the 2024 election. I just think that they have some problems. They've been the Republican Party because they're too extreme. They're not, trying to find that happy medium. They're too extreme.
Well, that's the piece that I think doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Is that there's a complacency in this country now, and folks are starting to see it. They're always saying, conservatives always talked about getting rid of abortions, making it illegal, and it never happened. And now, even now that it's done, instead of them saying course correction, right, that we're seeing people voting, they're going to carve out laws in there that even when the people get in there, you may not have enough on the other side to overturn what has been done. Like a lot of these states have supermajority.
That's right.
Republican.
Tennessee's a good one.
South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina.
North Carolina just overturned the governor's veto, right?
Yeah, so you have a Democratic governor, and then you have a representative. So, well, no, we're going to overturn that.
Exactly.
And this is how we're going to do it. And that becomes a serious. That's what's going to hurt them, in my opinion, in the next election.
But like Jamal, like I told people, I want to get your take on this. I said, folks saying, well, what happens in Georgia and these other places doesn't affect us. Okay, so that contraceptive abortion pill, right, that was nationwide. You had one judge who said, I'm going to ban it for the whole state. See, this is what happens in Texas does affect you in Massachusetts, because he's saying, if you have a legal right to it in your state, I'm going to ban it across the country.
But if you don't understand the rudiments or the basics of our civic system, that argument will be seen as a legitimate argument to you. If you feel like, well, you know what, I don't understand how this works, but I know that guy is in Texas. Whatever he rules in Texas is going to Texas. No, it impacts everyone. But if you understand how the system works, the way I'm going to here is that we need to argue, and we need to argue really hard to get our school systems back into tact and back into being functional systems, including civic education. Civic education should be a vital part of our of our system. And when our students graduate from high school, they should graduate with a diploma and a registration form for voting.
Yeah,
those should be the two things that they get.
Well, you're saying you want to lower the age for people to get guns, but you don't want to. You don't want people to vote. You don't want people to vote.
Well, you said in a democracy, which is a cornerstone of democracy, the voting system is the cornerstone. But yet you want to make it difficult for people to vote. It doesn't make any sense unless you feel like they're not going to vote for me.
Right.
They're not going to vote for my ideology or my party. Right. So now I have to try to limit the vote to people that actually thinks like me. So I would do what I call gerrymandering. Yeah. Which I think is a joke, because all it is like in a democracy, the people are supposed to choose the politician, not the politician choose the people. Right. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
So Jamal, you said we're doomed. How do we get out of this doomsday device, or do we?
Yeah, I mean, really and truly. I mean, now talking about like revolutionary stuff. I mean, it's really.
Dr. Bradley's got what is it? I'm drawing a blank on the army equipment with the tank.
Yeah, the tank.
He got the tank outside. He already got the headphones on that you plug into. Right? He's got the tank outside.
The M1 Abrams.
Yes, there we go. M1 Abrams. He's gonna be driving down Blue Hill Avenue a little later on. But no, in all seriousness, I'm not inspired, even with the situation that just came up with the Royal. I'm looking at so far the pool of people. Most of the city councils are running unopposed, and even their opponents, they're still running unopposed in most instances, right? That I don't see really any viable people that I say, okay, there's a game changer. And Jamal, why is it that we won't get behind what we know is best for us? We continue to just feel like there's nothing I can do, because there's more people that don't vote than do.
Well, this is why we have to really get serious, and that's why I was talking about on the revolutionary tip of educating our own children, working in small groups to educate and study, and study groups and research with each other, because that's the part we're light on. It's like even some of those people that want to run for office, they're like, yo, I'm running for office, and it's like, yo, great, but don't you want to study these issues? Nah, they just want to run.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I guess every sports fan's dream is like, I guess you just get to run on the court and become a Celtic. You don't have to do practice. You don't have to train. You don't have to do any of that. You just go on the jersey and run on the court. And that's what happens with us in our community a lot, and we have to get out of that. And other than that, I would just say to all those sober-minded people, think of it like the zombie apocalypse. At the end of the day, what are you going to do to protect you and yours? Because your whole neighborhood might go to the dogs. And you just got to really think about self-preservation at the end of the day, because it's not going to be kumbaya. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony and all this type of stuff. We're really going to have to make some hard choices, because everybody ain't going to make it.
Right. No, but we don't seem to want to make those, or we don't seem to want to, be accountable in that way.
It's scary for folks because accountability. It's work. It's
Right.
I mean, people, as I say, a lot of people they want to get swole up and big, but they don't want to do the push-up.
Right. Let's grab these comments that are coming in.
Patrick Wilson is saying, need to get people engaged and get out to vote, no matter how grim things may look.
Okay, so let's unpack that for a second here, because we've been on this broadcast. How long, Dr. Bradley?
11 years.
More than that, right?
15 years.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Jamal, how long you been talking about this and out there advocating? Right. What has really changed other than the calendar, right? Yeah. But we advocate for this.
We got older though. We got older,
right? But we advocate for this all the time. Yeah. The people that are impacted the most, because people like us, Jamal, we can navigate through this. We don't like the way it's set up, but we can navigate. Our families are pretty much intact.
Doing
right?
well.
The people who are impacted by these folks' decisions on a daily basis don't take enough interest in it. So again, how do you not have a child? How do you have a child in the Boston public school system and not show up for these community and not demand what other people voted on? Because most of them likely did not, to have an elected school committee, and that still is not taking place. Mm-hmm. So what was the other question? Because that is one that that's not going to change, unfortunately.
Well, let me just say to that, because while it's really daunting and it seems like it's not going to change, you're not, you're here every week because you're saying
it doesn't mean we're not giving up. Right. We just are realistic with the situation as well, right? Is that we're going to continue to do our part.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's just getting the other folks to do their 1/3, right? We're doing ours. Like you said, we come here most Saturday mornings. We try to bring informative guests in. We try to have people like Jamal calling in, but it hasn't really moved the ball. Not because of lack of trying.
But I think the other thing that we have to, and I think we have already, conceded to this and basically accepted this, is that progress is evolutionary. It's not revolutionary. Right. You know what I mean? It's going to take time for us to get to where we need to go. And in the interim, we have to educate people as they're going through that process, because there are certain things that they are looking at and they're saying, okay, this is how it is. Even how bad things are now, if we're not careful, it becomes the norm.
But to that point you say, Dr. Bradley, this is what I'm saying. What's the scary part is, Jamal alluded to it as well, is that the replacements for like the Bill Owens and stuff, right, and the Billy Celestis, those were you saw Billy Celester, and that was someone you wanted to aspire because you saw and he had the power. We don't really have that today. So I'm saying, if I said to you and Jamal, where's our Bill Owens today?
But but remember what the individual said to you in the Boston PD: there will never be another Billy Celester.
Exactly, and they're going to make sure that
we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We're going to make sure that the people in the community doesn't see that, because if they see that, then they can think that they can become that.
Well, here's the thing, Dr. Bradley. They see it. They just don't support the right people to advocate for them. There's few of us do, but like we complain. We're good at complaining about what's not taking place when we have the power at the ballot box.
Well, I think one of the things that my father used to always say to me is, one thing to recognize a problem, but it's another thing to figure out what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is entirely different.
So the last couple comments from Patrick Wilson says, Clarence Thomas reminds me a bit of the character Samuel Jackson played in Django Unchained.
Yes.
He said, rest in peace, Jim Brown.
Right, yes.
Who's that brother on the nag?
Right. Amen to the rest in peace, Jim Brown.
Yeah, amen to that.
But this is what I'm saying. Even back then, athletes and stuff, they were advocates. Today, very few, it's all about making money. They were too busy riding around in the car waving guns and with their friends and stuff, rather than out there really making change. Jamal, we got about 2 minutes. Want to give you a minute to wrap up? Did we lose Jamal?
Oh man, no, that's it for me. I mean, really, once again, another great show. Make sure you reconnect with Larry Calderon.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to get him on here for the next. So you got to get him in the next couple of weeks.
And not for nothing, why don't you also invite Van Zant, so it could be Larry, and Larry.
Well, he'll be snoring, so you won't be able to hear what we're saying.
No. It'll be Larry, and Dr. Bradley, because I would be here.
You be there too, for sure.
The three.
All right, but yeah, for sure. Y'all have a good one.
All right,
and,
I'll see you in the morning.
Be blessed, brother.
Yes, sir.
All
Be
right.
blessed.
Dr. Bradley?
One of the things that it really I think is very important that we continue to educate our people on what's going on around them.
Yeah.
We talk about the school system, but we have to become much more involved in educating our kids. And this is a vehicle, in my opinion, this is a platform by which we can do that.
Dr. Bradley, the last of your babies just graduated from college, first 4 year in college. That was something that was in your home. That's something that's in our home.
Yeah.
That is the plan for our children. Unfortunately, a lot of these homes, education isn't something they value. So how do you break that cycle when you don't see the importance of that?
And you break that cycle by actually making a contribution to society like we have done, like I have done, and like you're doing.
Not much. I'm talking about the folks who are impacted. That's the part. That's the segment.
But the hit here is that we're not going to do it immediately. We're going to do it over time. And how we're going to do it, our legacies are going to do it. My 5 kids who are college educated, your kids who are college educated, when they come up, they're going to see it entirely different than even when we saw it. So we're going to do it over an evolutionary period, not a revolutionary period.
I hope you're right. Folks, you've been listening to the Roundtable with MAMLEO, listening to our frustrations. We're going to keep doing our part. Hopefully you'll keep doing yours.
Amen.
Dr. Bradley, as you always say,
be blessed.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Take care.